After the government announced its Royal Commission into child sex abuse, the Catholic Church is preparing for an inquiry that will probably last years and uncover countless more cases of suffering at the hands of pedophile priests. There are questions, though, about how the Church can emerge from the crisis that engulfs it and whether the current Catholic leadership is up to the task of rebuilding, in particular the Sydney Archbishop, Cardinal George Pell. Political editor Chris Ullman has this report.
The Catholic Church was officially unwelcome in Australia until the foundation stone of St Mary's Cathedral was laid in 1821. Its roots were poor, Irish, Republican and suspect. As it grew to a quarter of the population, it paraded its might on St Patrick's Day. In its pomp of the 1950s and 60s, the churches, seminaries and convents were full.
Mass attendance at the time was about 75% of all Catholics. There were over 1,000 parishes throughout Australia, 3,000 priests, 12,000 nuns and about 1,500 religious brothers.
Now at the centre of the storm over child abuse, the Catholic Church feels like an outsider again.
I don't think we should be scapegoated.
Claire Jurd's son Damien was abused by a priest when he was 11. His case went to court in 1987 and a magistrate dismissed it, taking the word of a priest over a troubled 15-year-old boy. Damien killed himself in 2001 and Claire has no faith in the Church's ability to police itself.
I've never had any help from the Catholic Church whatsoever. Not a thing. No one ever... They were aware of what happened, although they didn't want to believe it when we had a committal hearing. They didn't want to believe that it really happened.
Cardinal Pell thinks the internal reporting systems the Church set up in the 90s are working.
I think both procedures are adequate. Now that doesn't mean to say they've been mucked up. They're adequate if they are followed.
Some of the clergy believe the Church faces a crisis its leadership can't or won't acknowledge.
Certainly there's no doubt that this goes across different organisations and different denominations and within the wider community. But there's also no denying that we're the clubhouse leaders by far, and that pains me to say that. But you know, we can't run away from that. That's the facts of the case, and some of the details of events that are emerging, say within the Victorian parliamentary inquiry, they're more than disturbing. They're horrific.
The horror for the Catholic Church is told in the numbers. 50 years of Victorian police records show 519 reported cases of the sexual abuse of children at the hands of church officials. 70% were complaints against Catholic clergy, brothers or lay teachers. Not one of the 620 cases upheld by the Church's internal review since 1996 has been reported to police.
If a stranger were to enter the grounds of a church and rape a child, then that rape would be immediately reported to the police and action expected. But if that stranger happened to be a member of the clergy, such as a priest, the matter would not be under the current experience reported.
Around the world, the response of the hierarchy to allegations of abuse follows a similar pattern. A decade of inquiries in Ireland ended with its Prime Minister launching a blistering attack on Rome.
The Klein report excavates the dysfunction, the disconnection, the elitism that dominate the culture of the Vatican today. The rape and the torture of children were downplayed or managed to uphold instead the primacy of the institution, its power, its standing and its reputation.
I don't think you can possibly exaggerate the extent of the problem. We're looking at something that's been global in terms of just about every country in the world. Here in Australia, probably just about every religious order and every diocese has been affected in part. And this is an organisation which presents itself as the ambassador of the message of Jesus Christ.
The looming Royal Commission casts a long shadow over a church that's already in trouble. Dr. Peter Wilkinson has charted its decline. Today, only 14% of Catholics regularly go to Mass. The clergy's average age is over 60. There are fewer parishes than there were 50 years ago, and a growing number have no priest.
So it's a picture which shows the church significantly battered, significantly chastened, and struggling to find the ministers to give pastoral care to those who still belong to the church.
Retired Sydney Bishop Geoffrey Robinson believes one of the church's problems is George Pell.
He's not a team man. There have been many occasions on many subjects where the Australian bishops have made certain decisions, but then Cardinal Pell's gone his own way, not working with the other bishops. And in this case, I do not believe the bishops ever appointed him to be their spokesperson on this subject. In fact, I don't believe they'd want him as their spokesperson. It's one of the things they need to do very quickly, and that is determine exactly who does speak for them and who does not.
Remarkably, Claire Jerd hasn't lost her faith, just her belief in the Catholic Church, and she thinks the Royal Commission might just help resurrect it.
I believe there's a lot of good priests. They're not all tarred with the one brush, so to say, but I think that this will clean it. I think it needed a good cleansing, so I think people will have a lot more faith in it after this.
Chris Yeoman reporting.